Welcome back to Leadership Rehearsal. I'm Alex, and I am so glad you're here. Last week, we talked about performance management and explored what it actually means to track performance throughout the year and how to root cause performance concerns and successes. If you have not listened to that episode yet, I encourage you to, as it sets up a lot of what we're going to do today. And here's why. Performance and feedback are not separate conversations. Feedback is how performance gets managed in real time. It's how a team member knows they're on track or that something needs to shift before it becomes a formal concern. Without a feedback culture, performance management is just a review process. With one, it becomes an ongoing conversation that actually helps develop people. Most organizations say they want a culture of feedback. They talk about it in their town halls, they put it in their values, they roll out tools and anonymous feedback programs, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Today, we're going to talk about why those efforts usually fall short and what it takes to actually build a feedback culture within your team. And as you guessed, it starts with you. Let's dive into rehearsal. Let's talk about what feedback actually is. Feedback is a tool to help people grow. It costs nothing and, if done effectively, shapes behavior and drives engagement. More specifically, it's a piece of data delivered with the intent to bring greater self-awareness. It is focused on the past and something that already happened, grounded in observable behavior, and offered from your perspective. And feedback can be positive. That is what recognition is, positive feedback. The goal is either to drive continued engagement and growth through recognition or to bring something into awareness before it leads to poor performance through feedback. An important takeaway is that feedback is offered from your perspective. Unless we're talking about something with only one correct way of doing it, say someone filled out a report incorrectly, feedback can be easily skewed because it comes from your experience of the event, which is why it's important that you understand the full context before giving it, and the way to gain better context is by having a conversation with the person first. We're going to go deeper on how to do this in the next episode, but I wanted to name it now because it connects directly to something organizations do that actually get in the way of building a feedback culture: anonymous feedback tools. Here's the issue with anonymous feedback. In order to remain anonymous, you have to scrub the feedback and remove anything specific, anything contextual, anything that might identify you as the source, which means that what arrives on the other end is a watered-down version of the real thing, vague enough to protect the sender, but so vague that the receiver cannot do anything meaningful with it. Feedback without context does not land. Think about it this way. We could both be in a meeting, watch the same person fumble their presentation, and want to give them feedback. Even though we experience the same moment, you may know the person well, their history, their current pressures, their areas of growth. So your feedback is going to come from a completely different place than mine because I don't have that relationship. Remove the source and you remove the perspective. What is left is not feedback, it's an observation without a frame. Here's a harder question to ask around anonymous feedback. Why does someone want to remain anonymous? What do they think they're going to gain by doing this? Is it going to be easier to deliver the feedback? Do they think that they'll avoid conflict? It's important to sit with what is the fear around feedback, because that fear is important data. It can point to a lot of different things, like the environment doesn't yet feel safe enough for honest conversations. Providing anonymous tools doesn't make giving and receiving feedback easier. It just provides subpar feedback that isn't actually actionable. Feedback requires context. It requires being specific about the behavior you observed and the impact you witnessed. If it's from an anonymous source, the team member does not have an opportunity to ask questions and gain clarity, which means they are left unsure what to do with it or how to apply it. If your organization's feedback tool only allows for anonymous feedback, I encourage you to add your name. That is what I used to do as a workaround. If you're not comfortable attaching your name to it, that is worth examining. So how do you actually start building a culture of feedback? I want to give you 2 concrete practices you can start this week. The first is about redirecting feedback that comes to you about your team. Let's say a stakeholder pulls you aside after a meeting, or someone tells you they have a concern about a member of your team. The instinct, especially for new leaders, is to receive that feedback, sit with it, and then deliver it on their behalf. You become the messenger, or worse, you become the messenger and you apologize for your team member. Do not do that. Think about everything we just talked about with anonymous feedback. The moment you become the messenger for your team, you have inserted yourself into a conversation that was never yours to have. And when your team member asks questions for clarification, you're not going to have the answers because you weren't there. And even if you were, this is coming from someone else's perspective. Here is what I do instead. When someone comes to me with feedback about a team member, the first question I ask is, have you shared this with them directly? If the answer is yes, great. I thank them for sharing it with me, and maybe I'll check in with the team member if I feel it's warranted. If the answer is no, I encourage them to share it directly. I explain that the feedback will be most useful coming from them because they experienced it. I don't have the context. And if they are still not willing to go to them directly, if they want me to be the messenger, I'm honest with them. I share that I'm not going to give them the feedback directly, but I will let them know that someone has feedback for them and that they should reach out directly. If that person is still uncomfortable being named, then we go into a different conversation around what is getting in the way of them sharing it. That conversation usually tells me everything I need to know about whether this feedback is something that needs to be acted on or if something else is at play. It may sound like I'm undoing the thing that I want, but in reality, I'm protecting my team member from having to act on feedback that they can't understand or that's ineffective. You are not the messenger. Yes, there will be times where you have to deliver feedback that is not yours, but those moments are fewer than we realize. The majority of these asks come from people who are just uncomfortable with feedback. Maybe they're trying to avoid conflict. Maybe they're uncomfortable sharing this, so they want you to. Either way, you are not the messenger. The second practice is asking your team for feedback on how you're leading. I know, you knew this was coming, and it might feel vulnerable or it might feel like you're opening a door you cannot close, and you're right, which is why leaders tend to avoid it. But if you're having performance conversations with your team, if you're asking them to receive feedback and act on it, then there has to be an expectation that these conversations go both ways. You cannot build a feedback culture by being exempt from it. Zippia's research found that 4 out of 10 employees who receive little to no feedback are actively disengaged, but the same dynamic is true in reverse. When leaders never ask for feedback, they signal that the relationship is one-directional, and a one-directional relationship does not build trust. So start small if you need to. Ask, what is one thing I could do differently to support you better? You can ask it during a one-on-one, at the end of a project, or when something has gone well and you want to understand your role in it. Not asking for feedback does not mean feedback does not exist. It means you're just not hearing it. At first, you may get silence or something very safe. Your team member may not trust yet that you are serious. That is okay. Keep asking. Ask different ways at different times. Show them through repetition that the question is not a trap, that you are genuinely interested in their answer. And then when they finally give you something real, here is what you do. Thank them. Ask a clarifying question if you need more context, and then sit with it. Do not defend, do not explain, just receive it. And above all, do not provide feedback back. That will derail everything. We're going to go much deeper on how to give and receive feedback in episode 9, but for now, the practice is simple. Ask, listen, thank, sit with it. This is how a feedback culture actually gets built, through your behavior and through you welcoming feedback. All right, we have made it to the solo rehearsal. As always, there is a worksheet linked in the episode description. Grab it before you begin. You can pause and start me so you can work in real time, or you can listen all the way to the end and come back to it. As always, the decision is up to you. Okay, today's exercise is focused on getting comfortable with asking for and receiving feedback. Before you can build a feedback culture, you have to look honestly at your own relationship with feedback. What does it feel like to receive it? What do you normally do with it? And whether you are actually ready to invite it in. Step 1, assess your comfort with receiving feedback. Think about the last time someone gave you real feedback, not a compliment or recognition. Who was it from? And then how did you respond in that moment? Did you get curious or did you get defensive? Did you thank them and sit with it? Or did you immediately start explaining why the thing that they observed was justified? Write down your answer. Then ask yourself, what makes receiving feedback hard for you? Is it the fear of being seen as less capable than you want to appear? Is it not trusting the person giving it? Is it not knowing what to do with it once you receive it? Write that down. Naming what makes it difficult is the first step to being able to receive it differently. Step 2, identify what you need. Now, think about what would make receiving feedback easier for you. Not easier in the sense of it's softer or less challenging, but just easier to receive. Maybe you need a moment to sit with it before responding. Maybe you need the person to be specific rather than general. Maybe you just need to trust that the relationship is strong enough to hold the honesty. Write down 1 or 2 things that, if present, would make you genuinely more open to hearing feedback. This is not about lowering the bar, it's just about understanding your own conditions. Because if you know what you need, you can start creating those for yourself and model them for your team. Step 3, prepare your ask. Now, prepare to ask your team for feedback. Write down the specific question you will ask in your next one-on-ones. Not a generic opener like, what feedback do you have for me? But something specific enough that it invites a real answer. Here are a few things to consider. What is one thing I could do to make your work easier? Is there something you see me doing that gets in my own way? What is one thing you wish I did more of or less of? Pick one or write your own. As you prepare for your conversation, it's also important to rehearse how you will respond to any feedback you receive. This is a moment to align with your values and how you want to show up during uncomfortable moments. I recommend thanking them, asking one clarifying question if you need more context. Anything past that right now could be perceived as combative, and then sit with it before responding further. Remember, above all, no defending. Asking for and receiving feedback from your team is a muscle. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but the more you do it and create the conditions for it, the easier it becomes. And it is showing your team that feedback does not have to be scary or wait for a formal process. All right, we've made it to the final section, the team rehearsal. This week, I have two things for you. First, the next time someone brings you feedback about a team member, redirect it. Ask them if they've shared it directly and encourage them to do so if they haven't. Practice not being the messenger. Second, ask your team for feedback on you. In your next one-on-one with each person, use the question you prepared in the solo rehearsal. Create a space for an open conversation, then do what you committed to. Listen, thank them, sit with it. Sit in the silence if it comes. Your team member may need a moment to decide whether they trust that the question is real. Let them have it. When they answer, and they will eventually, thank them first. The moment you receive feedback with defensiveness, you close the door. The moment you receive it with genuine curiosity, you open it wider for next time. And if they do not have anything to offer you right now, that is okay. Keep asking in different ways and at different times. All right, that is all we have this week. Coming up next, we're going to dive into the mechanics of feedback itself, how to give it in a way that is honest while maintaining the person's self-esteem, and how to receive it, especially when you're not sure what to do with it. That is episode 9, and it builds directly on the foundation we've been building today. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe so you don't miss future rehearsals. Follow us on Instagram at Leadership Rehearsal and share your questions or experiences in the comments. I'm Alex, and I'll see you at the next rehearsal. Bye.